Traditionally, those who open the day have the most difficult task because they need to wake up the audience. We'll try to do it as fun a way as possible. To some extent, it's difficult. On the other hand, it's a multifaceted topic of digital inclusivity. Why is digital inclusivity in the narrow sense? It's adaptation of the tools and channels of interface with the financial market in order to make it convenient with different kinds of limitations, disabilities, etc. But on the whole, it's general accessibility of the financial services for everyone who might need it. So we would like to talk about this in various aspects, and we have a very strong set of speakers today, and we will try to shed light on it from various angles. I will try to introduce the speakers along the course of their presentations, their inputs, and we have the largest banks here. We have representatives now, representatives of disabled people, representatives of different disabled individuals who will share their experience, that will encounter, will state some of the things that they are interested about, and disabilities, health limitations, etc. And we also have a few things related to the impact on the digital domain, on the inclusion. From the experience that we have, we can say that the financial organizations that pay a lot of attention to inclusivity, even though it might be directed at problems of people with poor eyesight, normally the gains are in the broad sense because they create more convenient, universal type of interfaces, and if people are comfortable, they bring in friends of theirs. And inclusion means general comfort. So we are not only talking about social responsibility, but also increasing of the attractiveness for the clients and even getting additional income. And it's not a simple track. It requires changes in the consciousness, it requires changes in the culture of thinking, and this is what we are going to talk about. My name is Mikhail Mamuta, I represent the bank Russia, Bank Russia company, and we have a group that is working about increasing the inclusivity, and my panel members today are also members of working groups, and we have many speakers and very little time. We are pressed for time, so I would like everyone to be very compact, but say the main things for which we have gathered here today. In the first place, I would like to ask to speak Ms. Anna Nesterova from Sberbank, because Sberbank historically was paying a lot of attention to inclusion and has achieved very interesting results, including changing the attitude to this topic. Please, Anna, the floor is yours. Hello, thank you very much for being able to speak at this event. Let me get right to the topic. Inclusion is an important part of the SG agenda of Sberbank. My clicker is not working, unfortunately. Still, it's an important part of my SG agenda, and when we are talking about the accessibility of our products and services to people with disabilities, I think it's quite a broad range of our clients, because there can be situational limitations, because many people like to use various videos with subtitles. People use a ramp when they roll suitcases, not only roll in wheelchairs. So when we're talking about accessibility, we mean a broad scope of clients, and when we do something for an extreme user, it will definitely improve our services for other clients. When we are talking about accessibility, accessibility is not being free. Accessibility is more about convenience of use. We have about 8 million clients who are on handicap welfare. We know that they have some disabilities, some limitations, but there are even more clients who have temporary limitations. We think that every third our client in the course of his or her lifetime have some health limitations, either permanent or temporary, and when we do it, we usually do testing on the target audience. We test our new processes for these new clients together with them, with our experts, and as a result we do something. When we speak about accessibility of not only ramps but with the eyesight impairments, we're talking about the adaptation of digital services. We have a fully accessible mobile application at Sberbank. 90% of our ATMs are equipped with an audio jack for the headset, and the client inserts the headset in the jack, and there are different audio prompts which help people do the top operations. We have 2 blind testers in our team, and over time our mobile applications has acquired 300 teams, so there is always some new functionality, and we need to always comply with these accessibility problems. We have made this internal breakthrough and became this accessibility a part of our process. So all the testers, all the designers from various teams are testing the new accessibility features before they are rolled out. So that has significantly changed the quality of our work on digital accessibility. Speaking about people with speech and hearing impairments, we have the remote translation to the language for deaf and dumb, language of gestures, and our employees can connect through a tablet with the employee of a call center who knows this language, and the same exists on the mobile applications. In this manner, and previously we started to use finger speech, sign language. So we are not only thinking about services for people with limitations, but also for the services for their relatives. For example, we have the funding protection for the people. For example, the people can connect the verification of operations with another hand. It was done for the people with mental impairments and for people who have elderly relatives, but it turned out that it's also being used by the wives of not very rich husbands in order to verify their operations. So we have done this for ourselves and for companies. So actually we have done it for our bank. There are references to Sber University. We have guides. Thank you, Anna. Wonderful, and there are multiple profiles, and it looks very beneficial, but I would like to ask you one question. You mentioned that You have developed the second-hand service to help people with mental impairments, but it turned out that people without mental impairments are using it, and it started to play a role of a social controller, so the wives are actually controlling the costs of their husbands. So how often does it happen that the solution was proposed as a narrow solution, all of a sudden starting to be in demand in a broader sense? It actually does happen often if they are connected with some general things like the training of the employees, and one of the examples on digital accessibility, we started to talk about it, about the culture of the development. It's like being literate in Russian, to know the codes, and then it will be accessible. So it's just a change in the mindset which is happening, and of course not all our teams can reach that level, but some are actually examples to follow. So there is always some synergy effect for the client. Actually hinted at that in the very beginning. It's good that you have confirmed that on practice, and it has become a good tradition. And it's good that we have this competition in the banking sector, in this segment for digital inclusion. And it's wonderful because by competing with each other, banks are making it better for the people. And I wanted to ask Nikita Chugunov, Senior Vice President of the VTB of Nesterova Bank, and he can tell about the problems that the bank has encountered on the road to digital inclusion. It's actually a very important topic which is worth talking about. And I would like to actually say that inclusivity has a much wider spectrum than of accessibility. We are far from being inclusive, but accessibility is a high priority for us. And so I would like to say how we changed the approach to our work, what preceded that, and why we have taken such a decision. The pressure of the regulator to identify the main topics towards which we will be moving, and what are the challenges for us. The first thing is the inclusive approach to inclusivity. We have SG agenda in environment and in governance. It's changed, and in the social sector it remains a priority one. So on E and EG we have actually changed our cost, but on social agenda we left everything as a priority. So inclusivity, actually Anna has mentioned that it's not about being disabled. There is a wide spectrum, and often people doesn't want to think of which space you can fly to, and people can be still riding bikes, but on the whole it's we have identified ourselves as people with disabilities in order not to lose the trees behind the forest. So we need to take care of the questions which are more primary for the clients, for the organizations. Therefore, why is it important? Because figures are speaking for themselves. They will speak separately about people with a poor sight. 1 in 12 persons is colorblind. For example, when we saw this bagel diagram which shows the portfolio, they don't understand what is going on. That's on the question how we create our services. And actually there are many things which I do not understand. They used Ethiopian language. Some of the reporting, 27% of the retired individuals, they are not using banking services. And And not because they are bad, but because they don't know how to use the digital services. So after looking at those figures, it has become clear that it's impossible not to get involved with it. So whether it's a task or the regulator, for the regulator or business task, it's a question. We are creating interfaces instantly with adaptation adapted for the people with disabilities, and actually then we automatically get an interface for people without limitations. We had to get rid of caps locks, animations, glittering things, gloss, so everything, if something is working for disabled people, it's also working for normal people. And so that's a key idea. So when we create an interface for a blind person, then you automatically solve a problem for a person who has limitations when it comes to the eyesight. And the key idea is actually when you create it for the very complex category of people with serious health limitations. Of course, you infringe some interest when it comes to the aesthetic refinement and good outlook, but of course we are very smart. I took all those standards that exist, and digital standards seem to be working. We have reported to the regulator, and then I have called my friends, and some people know them, so, and then they have put together our entire team, but they have reported to the regulator. So at the peak of COVID, nothing was working. And we have changed everything. So we have made it a standard, everything that relates to inclusivity, and it's impossible to bypass it nowadays. It used to be free program, so you can make it as a developer. It's impossible to bypass when you design a product to miss the creation of a product for people with limited eyesight. And for us, it's probably the most vulnerable category because when we're talking about people with motion impairments, actually dyslexic or colorblind people may still be able to perform, but those who are really blind, those people would actually encounter problems. So we have done an internal survey. So when we made it a priority to make the eyesight impaired people the most important category, we have actually hit the target. And it's actually a never-ending product. It's an ever-continuing process. It goes on. And we cannot treat it as something mandatory. Is it a business task or a mandatory task? And then you start to get rejected by everybody. So they are not clients. They also pay to you. They borrow money, they get credits, and so this is the kind of a way that we have chosen for ourselves, and we consider it a priority. When I mentioned the colorblind people, so what color it? Achromatic people. What color iPhone is this? We have advanced people. So it's which color did you say it is? turquoise, so I feel like a completely half-witted people, but seriously speaking, so there are some specifics of perception and of health that everybody has, but people do not want to be talking about it. Yet, with which I fully agree with Nikita, is that when you are doing something for the people with serious impairments, it makes the service more comfortable for everyone. And that's one of the features of the inclusion. You are solving the task which is actually more important. So we have agreed that we will make those connections with the opinions of the expert in order to orient, to have orientation in the space and see how those developments help the people. And not only people with the eyesight have the problem, but also people with the hearing, they also have problems. We have two speakers from the Adaptis team, one of the leaders in the development of the artificial intelligence system to understand the Russian language of gestures. Everybody is used to translation in the language of gestures, so it's really something new. Alexei Shelkovin and Maxim Isaev, they will they will be talking about the experience in the presentation now. My name is Maxim, and Alexei will continue after me. So I am the founder of Deafon company. I have the 4th degree of hearing loss. I cannot hear anything without hearing aids. I have encountered many problems, and all of those problems were related to the communication barriers. And when I heard when I was solving my problems, I have gained understanding who found themselves in the same situation like myself. So I have founded a company where we sell to people technical rehabilitation media, signalizers, vibration media, special SIM cards with an answering machine. When you can hear that the person is calling a deaf person, and then he can get an answer that the person may write a message. So this is where the communication stops and deaf people fall out of the normal life. They are all fully fledged society members, and externally you cannot see that they are solving their tasks, so you are helping the entire society of the deaf. So we do not try to explain the people how to correctly speak. They actually know the sign language very well. It's a native language for them, like Russian is for us. And we have 10,000 clients throughout Russia. The goods that I told you about, I would also like you to understand that the sign language is a fully fledged linguistic system which occupies a very important place in the life of the people who have hearing problems for physical reasons. They have problems with verbal communication. Doesn't mean that they cannot talk and that they cannot write, but it plays a smaller role for them than the sign language, because when in the technical supports in the chats, it's written in Russian. The deaf people do not always understand. They understand single words. They do not understand words like transaction, etc. Sometimes it's easier for them to show it on the fingers, and then it can be solved a lot faster. There are problems related to the lack of mass usage of the gesture language. When the deaf people are waving hands, I currently study at a linguistic university in sign language. We want to advance the topic and move it ahead so that people start to treat it seriously. And the question is being solved. And lately, it's very moving ahead at a very fast pace, which did not happen before. So I would like to once again share my experience when I was in Paris in 2019 at the International Congress of the International Deaf Federation. I saw a bank where deaf people are working. It was a section of a large bank, and all the Parisians who didn't hear me, they all were working in that section. They were speaking in their language. You could get a fully fledged consultation there, and people who do not hear, they actually have a priority, because if someone hears well, it means that you can produce a impression of a smart person, and but if you know a sign language, you can detect many problems with the people who are hard of hearing. And then I would like to give floor now to Alexei from Adaptis company. Hello, colleagues. I would like to share a little bit about the technologies. Adaptis has undertaken the task of performing the mission of creating a computer translator to the Russian gesture language. And you can see on the slide what it looks like. It's actually the computer translator is a tool that can help the computer translation to the language of gestures gain a mass scale, and it can spread, be deployed on a mass scale, and you can build it in any application or any site. At the foundation of this technology which we are developing is nothing else but the real motion and gestures of the speakers of the language of signs. And by means of animation, we have created the first dictionary of the digital language of signs, where not only the gestures are contained and the motions of the fingers, but also the mimics. We are putting it all together, and we are creating the actually precursor of the digital language of signs. So with the help of computer graphics, which is used in movies and computer games, we make three-dimensional characters, which we can become a fairy tale nature if a translation is necessary for a kid. And then we can give the deaf or poorly hearing person a translator. And if a person is using translation on the train, it can be an employee of the railways, or it can be a bank employee in a branded outfit. Based on that technology, we are using such products. For example, chatbot for deaf users, which gives answers in text and also duplicates the question, and deaf people do not need to write the text. Also QR codes, it's a widely used technology which is gaining new sense, and it can give deaf people comments about the context at the place where they are located in the language of gestures. And we are very broadly using this technology for translating the video content, for translating the entertainment content. It fits very well. And on the contrary, for a normal translator, it's hard to make this translation. If a live translator is working for half an hour without a stop, it needs to take shifts. He needs to take shifts. So if you're translating a book or a movie, it will be hard for a single person to do it. But when for a machine, you can use a dictionary as a basis, and we also collect examples of the speech of deaf people, and then we are using this machine translation. Actually, deaf people are also expecting another thing. They want a reverse translation, they want to be heard, and among other things, we are involved with the reverse translation technique, which with the help of the video can recognize specific gestures and configurations of the hand, the fingers, and everything. On the whole, I would like that the recognition of an image is a solved task, and there are many technologies. For example, the OpenCV and OpenPose, open libraries, where you can recognize images on the video, but it's harder to do it with the meaningful images. It's harder to recognize the speech and the alphabet which a deaf person is showing on the camera. For example, I can show a tactile alphabet where an assistant is showing single letters, and single letters are being recognized and the word constructed out of them. Such developments are quite topical. It's probably technology of tomorrow, which will not only allow direct to do the translation for the deaf person, but also for them to be heard and have a reverse translation from their language into Russian. The development of such technologies is not only the task of artificial intelligence and not only a computer science task. It's something that cannot be done without the participation of the deaf people, and in order to make the technology and make good quality of the translation, the Russian the National Society of the Deaf People is helping us. We are studying the animation, and the partners are helping us. For example, one of the profile institutions, the Novosibirsk University, is helping us to create a lab where we are studying such technologies. With this, I would like to thank you for, this is what I wanted to share and propose to your attention. And I actually wanted to upload, I just wanted to say two words. Actually, it's an example of Maxim's example and your example of many people with health impairments. Vasily will also be speaking today. It's an example which shows that handicap is not a limitation to which we are all used. It's more of a limitation which exists in the people's minds, not only people with impaired health, but actually those who work with them, and the latter even more frequently. And it's related to communication problems. And I heard something several years ago, and it was dedicated to prosthetic medicine, and the creator of the company who was making those automated prostheses, bionical prostheses, artificial limbs, and he was walking on the stage, and then at the end he said, I, for example, will tell a few words about myself. Last year I have got on the Everest, and then he said, yes, good thing to do, and then he lifted his pants, and you can see that he is in bionical prosthesis. Even above his knee, even they have a knee joint. So really, at that moment, one understands that everything is inside the person, everything is in the mind, and the technology helps a lot, but everything starts with the attitude, with the mindset. And when a financial organization is turning its face to a handicapped individual, we understand that not only have they learned to work with them technologically, but that their culture is helping them to treat that person as a normal client. And years will pass, we don't know how many years. We can be more optimistic or more pessimistic, but the motion-related, posture-related problems and maybe hearing problems will be overcome as well, and all those borders will be erased, and people using exoskeleton will be stronger than the people without it. But the question of culture is actually very important. One of the guys, either Maxim or Alexei, has told that sometimes people do not want to be afraid to speak with the handicapped people because they even feel some internal lack of comfort. Changing the culture is even more important than the need to develop the technologies. I know that Rosbank is involved with this problem from the point of view of cultural code. And I wanted to ask Olga to tell about how they managed to achieve that, because changing the culture then is more difficult than changing the business process. It's like a foundation on which everything is built. Yes, thank you very much, colleagues. Thank you, Mikhail, for this brilliant introduction. I know that I'm not the first one speaking here. I was thinking about what to start with, and a thought has come to my mind that you mentioned the competition, which is seemingly facilitating the development of progress, but I have a reverse feeling, especially after the last story, that we do not have competitions. It shouldn't be around, and we shouldn't be the case. We should help each other, enhance, strengthen each other, and it's a very sincere internal desire that our entire team is experiencing, and we will be always happy to share our experience. So I will be repeating what the colleagues said. A lot of important stuff has been said, and let me sort out the clicker and get a hang of the clicker. And we called our presentation Digital Humanism, and there is a whole digital whirlpool around, and whirlwind, and we know that while working with the data, the person is excluded from the production chain, and we are seeing self-executing contracts, self-replicating processes, self-improving and self-efficiency increasing processes, and that it has become very important for our team to retain a person at the center, as the core of our care, at the center of the product that is helping us. And the team for itself has chosen a very interesting motto: nothing for us without us. So these standards have been implemented, and in our case we have moved ahead. We started from the cultural change from below, so it took a lengthy period of time, but now there are a few teams which from the start are using different types of handicapped people, and we started to categorize, to single out different people. We want our services to be accessible for everyone. It's not something new. A lot has been said about it, and we have the similar we're after similar conclusion that the services which are convenient for the handicapped people will also be convenient for everybody. So there should be no barriers, and we have an important approach is that we have singled out several development stages, and we do not single out specific handicaps. Everything should be happening with the experts who will tell us how to correctly structure our projects and products. And this is why in every channel we have an interface with the client, and we want to create the products that are comfortable for all categories, for all citizens, so we have comfortable reading modes. This is why the majority of the ATM machines and all the Rosbank offices will have an audio jack in the ATM, which is adapted for our people with disabilities, our clients with disabilities. I didn't want to show many examples, but this cultural change is happening stage by stage because it doesn't require a lot of branches, a lot of ramification, many tracks. We are actually trying to adhere to the idea that a product which is comfortable for people with limitations will be convenient for everybody, and we are trying to make the teams to have all the experts of such nature, and I will not try to repeat myself, but I will try to approach the end of my story. And for me, the development of digitalization is unavoidable. It's very important, but human-centric approach is the most important thing for us. So this is what I would probably finish with at the moment. Thank you very much, Olga. I would still like to ask you, honestly, has it been difficult to change the culture inside the team itself? I wouldn't speak about that in the past. It's a never-ending story, and of course, it's even hard to speak. But sincerely, it's a process that requires complete immersion, which requires from the company high involvement degree, and our corporate culture is actually revolving around the employee. This is how it has been historically, and in this sense, our foundations, which have been raised by our parent companies, are helping us. This is what I will answer you. So good luck on this track, and the example of the culture transformation is important for me, for many participants of the financial market, and your experience will be useful. So now I would like to give floor to Vasily Drozhzhin. Vasily Drozhzhin is our expert for many years. He is an expert in people with a poor eyesight, representing their interests, and we have initially arranged our work in such a manner that we are giving signals to people, giving feedback to people with limitations. And Vasily is not only our expert, he's only conducting a program about finance at the radio station for blind people. So he is actually does it in a very understandable language, a language which is a close one for people with a poor eyesight, and we are proud that we are frequent guests to that problem. It's good that we are bringing benefit to Vasily and his audience, and I would like to ask you in some way to perhaps maybe draw the conclusion of the previous inputs. A lot has been said about the banks, about the technologies, about the culture, about the future, but how would you personally assess, as the anchor of this program, what else needs to be done? How would you assess everything? Thank you very, very much, Mikhail, on this mission. You have vested a very interesting mission on me. It's also very pleasing to speak at this ground. And if we are looking at the accessibility situation, and not only for them, but for all kinds of handicaps, dynamically it's changing for better. And of course, if we turn back the time, and we try to remember the situation 5 years ago, of course now it's a lot better, a lot more interesting. There are a lot more services being implemented, about which the colleagues have told now, and there are new things that I found out about this one of the technologies, and actually I quite often encounter different types of digital services, and due to the fact that I am testing certain things and I am a client of over 2 dozen banks. Actually, what I would like to say now, it's all based on my personal experience and the practice of my colleagues. Really, digitalization is something where we are going, and for many it's becoming very something that eases the daily routine. And from the point of view of a blind person, it's actually not only opportunity, but actually a certain barrier, because I will try to explain why. Yes, I have divided into several components the set of things which appear. And when we talk about digital accessibility, various electronic and information solutions, of course, in my opinion, I don't have a presentation, thank you colleagues, but speaking about the digital accessibility, a huge number of credit organizations have come to not creating separate individual functions, but just fulfill some kind of basis for development. And people know the standard, sometimes they use it, and sometimes this product is developed with the help of the testers, with the help of testers, with the help of people sometimes come up with classy ideas, but they are not tested for accessibility. It's good that Sberbank has this experience, that whenever anything is released, it's tested for accessibility, because sometimes there is rollback. The application used to be accessible, but then some function breaks. One of the fields is not has no sound to assist the recognition of functions. So new people have come, we haven't agreed it with them, they have done something classy, but that has broken the accessibility, and not all people are very carefully watching it, but comprehensive solutions allow avoiding that. About whether it is worth it to get people with relevant sensory disabilities involved. For example, if we're talking about the people with the poor eyesight, sometimes we have encountered the colleagues who are saying, okay, we have on-screen access installed, but now say you cannot enter the PIN code, but they say if you enter the PIN code, everything works. But then they say, imagine you are blind, and if you make the screen dark, then how would you go through this? How would you make everything accessible? How would you enter this PIN code? But this is theoretically someone who has eyesight can help you, but then theoretically that person can do everything else as well. So this step-by-step testing model is very important, and it's excellent that those people who are doing the testing, they have testers in their staff, and I'm sure there are such people, and it's really important to assess the end result, and it is important to understand to what extent it complies with the interests aspects of your target audience, but I would like to dwell not only on the digital accessibility or non-accessibility, but also the legal aspects, because distance is often yielding additional limitations, because there are digital services which are provided by delivering cards by a courier, and sometimes a blind person is asked to enter the full name, but there are many blind people who never wrote anything. In the best case, they can write their signature, so they are saying, just state your name, write your name, don't you know? And if a person says, I cannot do that, then the person is saying, in this case, I cannot issue a product to you. And so there is lack of understanding. They don't have instructions governing that situation. So for them, it's not that they are so mean, they just do not know what to do. They don't have the relevant script, and I won't be naming the credit organizations where it happened. I have encountered such situations. So for example, I can do it, and my spouse cannot. And among the colleagues who are present here, those organizations are missing. Also, certain products in a certain bank at one credit organization, it wasn't accessible to me because I am disabled. I am being serious. I got an official reply on the letterhead of the organization that according to the bank's instruction, we cannot sell this product to you because you are a person with a disability. So according to item so and so of our manual, we cannot issue to you this or that product. So in 2022 it was really difficult, to say the least, to see it on the level of an instruction, to see it on the level of a kind of a misunderstanding by some employee, and that it can still be a foundation for not issuing some service to you. So in fact, it all requires normative regulation and oversight. And together with the colleagues, we tried to consider it all, and with the help of the Bank of Russia colleagues, we sometimes are capable of solving those problems. And the last thing is the cultural level, the cultural interface, because not all people are using digital interfaces, especially elderly people who are handicapped. They do not often visit the credit institutions, and there is the lack of understanding sometimes, not because the person are treating negatively the handicapped people, but they are just not informed. They do not understand what to do when a person with a disability has come. And with many organizations there are different people, and often it's human factor, and I often encounter somebody and I get a credit card, and the question is asked to me, and how is he going to use this credit card? He's not seeing. Why does he need a credit card? So it's an absolutely real situation when a person are asking not you, but the person who has come with you, a person without disabilities. So the person with impairments, everybody thinks, or people think that he may be not fully functional. And I would not like to speak on behalf of or about, it doesn't probably concern all the people working at bank offices, but there is no systemic approach, a unified, universal policy, because sometimes you can get a different level of service with different set of people, and in many cases it depends on the corporate corporate culture and how the interface with handicapped people turns on and the scripts of training the employees. When it happens at the stage of passing some qualification tests, then of course this is a question that is not going to be raised at all. So, to sum up, I would like to say that I single out three levels of financial accessibility: on the digital technical level, on the level of legal standards, and on the level of the culture. And each of those spheres requires its own set of measures and solutions. And if it happens systemically, with the involvement of professionals and people of respective categories, then we achieve the best result. It was very good to hear the people who actually create a systemic approach, Department of Digital Business Disability Departments, etc. So, Vasily, it was a very useful presentation, and it's nice to hear that the financial market is on the right track, and it even creates certain landmarks, certain guideposts for different people. So maybe some of those things may be something that is already in the past, some of the problems. And the culture is a very important problem. When the general culture does not imply the right attitude to different people with the health limitations, those funny, in quotation mark, stories, like people are asking not the handicapped person, but the one who came with him, why does he need a credit card? There are things to be addressed, problems to be addressed, and it gives a lot of food for the mind. So I would like to ask to make an expert assessment of what we have heard, ask our esteemed experts to make an expert assessment. He is the chairperson of Electronic Money Association. He is a very versatile person, and he is also certified expert of UN development problems. So, if possible, can you tell me about inclusion and how it fits with an international approach? In the first place, I would like to start with the fact that I'm very proud of what I heard, and of course you are excellent people, and it's wonderful. And I would just say this little analytical thing, that basically, based on our international experience, inclusion is a lot broader term. And we have considered many categories. Actually, inclusion, in terms of the International Alliance for Financial Inclusion, there are also many categories which are not as much technical as regulatory and political. There are categories of elderly people, and it's very important because we clearly see that elderly people are becoming more and more online bound. People are sitting on the Skype, they're reading news, and they access financial functions very actively, and a special approach is necessary for that. And the category of women is also touched upon, and Russia really has a good level of gender equality in finance, and there are no problems when we're talking about feminine access. It's actually a category which is a problem for conservative Muslim countries. Sometimes the woman cannot show a face to the bank teller in order for him to identify her, and for us it may seem funny, but people live with it. We also have a category of young people, and the young people was never accepted as something which has inclusivity problems. They're actually the most active, the most advanced ones. But if we are talking about the credit rating problem, people without credit histories, of course, are vulnerable in that sense. And of course, there is such a sad category as forced migrants, people who come from the war zone, from the zones with different natural disaster problems. So they are in their receiving area. They actually become vulnerable, and that's really an important issue. And another thing is that in Russia there is a huge number of people. And those are migrants. We know about it. Migrants, normal migrants. And we know the ways. There are special financial services for migrants, cross-border identification. The person who has the identification in Kazakhstan and Turkmenistan can use the identification in Russia. So it's not enough, and because I have been asked to draw the conclusions, I will just say that a lot of work has been done, and this actually can be voiced on a lot broader level. And being a professional in financial sector, actually, I'm not familiar because I'm not one. Actually, I'm not a professional in the financial sector, but I know many stories in this field about Tinkov, who has been personally tested applications for people with the poor eyesight, and in a year Tinkov has covered his eyes and done everything in his bank application. So it's good that you are actually getting people involved and granting people access. So it's a very broad view, many things. And colleagues, in conclusion, actually our time is running up, but we have got extra 5 minutes from the organizers. I would like in the first place to get a part of our audience involved, because the timing is 1 hour, so we cannot get in, but I would like to ask technologically to get involved, because I hope everybody has mobile apps, and so please get in the program section, choose today's date, choose digital inclusivity, then push vote, then enter 477777 as a password. It's good that it's not 1842, but anyways, let's go through this difficult track. And Yuri, you as a master in digital inclusion, maybe you should simplify it, maybe put a QR code on the screen or something like that, and there will be 4 questions. You are asked to vote on them. My request to the organizers is please do not show answers, and I would like to have a small survey, ask a few questions to the speakers, and I would like to ask you to answer within 20 seconds. What is the main challenge, in your opinion, for inclusion in the financial sector over the horizon of the nearest 5 years? Because you can forecast anything for 100 years, but now nobody will verify it. 1 year is too short, but 5 years is close enough, but it's not tomorrow, but actually the day after tomorrow. So, your opinion, please. Anna, Victor has already mentioned that we have aging population, and we know that the clients over 75, there are over 11 million clients in the age above 75 years old. In the past, we don't know where these people were, but now it's a separate segment with whom people should be working with the application of these technologies, which people started to make with the handicapped clients. And if we're talking about the demography, then of course the number of our today's clients, there will be more of them will be alive. in their old age. For VTB, it is expansion of the segment categories for which we make it accessible adaptation of all the channels, of all the products. We are still far away from them. We shouldn't live with just digital inclusion for the country in general. I think it's the best practice in financial technology should be used in all categories. Not everything is fine in the country. From the point of view of accessibility. So we need to expand the best practices of the banks. And I think due to digitalization, this is Olga speaking, we will more vulnerable people will be using digital services, and there are vulnerabilities related to information security and available software. So the main 5+ challenge, 5 years plus challenge, is the defending those people from abuses related to social engineering. In the digital sector, we are actually on a good track, and the technology will help us to make 1 or 2, even more steps forward. But the attention of the people in real life and everyday life situations, attention to elderly people, all of that, I think, is the greatest challenge, along with the change in the people's attitude and the attention and preparedness to communicate with those people on an equal basis. I think the main thing in the nearest time will be to accept people as they are. Speaking about the deaf people, I think it's mostly people who do not hear should be able to hear, but you cannot learn them speak, but you cannot learn to teach them to hear. So they should be accepted with all their problems, with all their shortcomings and advantages, and you should create for them comfortable environment and comfortable products for them. Also, when it comes to what is sound, I think digitalization will be gaining momentum, and out of this chain, the man-to-man interface will be probably excluded. There will be more requirements to accessibility, and there is a little bit of a dream. I think the handicap, which is more in the mind. I think that over the 5 years plus category, it would be alleviated. And not only in the terms of the understanding, but it's people with special features, and this is how it should be perceived. It should be automated, and it should assemble in about 5 years. That would be a classist thing. Thank you very much. On the one hand, it's technology, on the other hand, it's acceptance. Please put them on the screen. I think this is something that plays the major role in the accessibility of financial services. And what is the most interesting thing? I doubt that it will be technology development, and my guess was right. The first one is the interest on the part of the financial marketplace. So it's a signal to you. We are all participants. Everything starts with interest, and if you exist, then everything works out. So I would like to thank all the speakers, and I would like to agree with Victor for your work, for your faith, and thanks for being with us. And I would like to thank the audience for actively listening to us. So I hope that those rays of light will be brought by us, with us, into the future. Thank you.